Sa Pampanga, meron kaming delicacies called turones de casoy. I do not know if you've ever tasted them. They are pieces of cashew nougat wrapped in what looks like white paper. Kung hindi ka pamilyar sa aming turones de casoy, you would make the mistake of removing the wrapper, unwrapping the nougat inside. Well, people eventually find out from true Kapampangans that the whole thing is edible, both the content and the wrapper. The wrapper is actually made of paper-thin wafer made of rice. Today's gospel is about the opposite of that. It is about people who eat the wrapper and throw away the contents. Kinakain ng balat, tinatapon ng laman. Isn't that stupid? But it is precisely what Jesus is trying to say about the Pharisees. How they reduce their faith to a set of rituals that have lost their meaning. Well, yesterday I told you Jesus was often criticized for violating the law, especially the observance of the Sabbath day. I imagine Jesus, in today's gospel, making his audience laugh when he says, kung talagang stricto na walang trabaho kapag Sabbath day, bakit yung mga pare nagtatrabaho pag Sabbath day? And I'm sure tumawa yung mga nakikinig. Because Sabbath was supposed to be the busiest day in the life of the priests, the Jewish priests. Parang kami din. The day of rest is the busiest day for us. And the busiest time of the year for them was actually the most sacred day of the year. It was supposed to be a day of rest and worship for the Jewish people. And it is called the Passover festival. And that is the time of the year when the priests, have to slaughter tens of thousands of lambs in the temple within one day lang. Actually, they say it's more than that. Some scholars have tried to do the mathematics and put the number to more than 200,000 lambs sacrificed for the great festival of Passover every year. Wow! 200,000 kordero. What a bloody and what a tiring day that must have been for the Jewish priests. Originally, the ritual was supposed to be done right at home. At sa bahay din niluluto yung lechong kordero. A yearly commemoration of their liberation from slavery in Egypt. And it is our first reading today. It ends with an instruction that all the Jews should observe the Passover yearly as a memorial feast, which all generations should celebrate with pilgrimage to the Lord as a perpetual institution. And since most of the Jews who have migrated abroad came home, parang Pinoy din. They came home once a year during the Passover festival. They had to rely on the services of the temple priests to do the slaughtering of the lambs. Kasi nakatira lang sila sa mga hotels sa Jerusalem. And those living in the homeland should be able to do it right at home. But in the time of Jesus, by then, everybody, both those at home and abroad, were already required to depend on the temple priests to perform the ritual sacrifice of the Passover lamb. And it was supposed to be a beautiful ritual, a beautiful day of remembering how God, in His mercy, saved His people from slavery. Kung ang mga Kano, they celebrate Thanksgiving with a roasted turkey, the Jewish people with a roasted lamb. They were supposed to recall and explain the meaning of what they were doing to their children and their grandchildren. And they were supposed to repeat the explanation over and over again para hindi sila makalimot. This is also the background to the responsorial psalm for this evening. Kung ita-translate mo siya into Tagalog, it would come very close to the song composed by George Canseco and sung by Kuledesma. Alam niyo ba yung kantang, "Paano kita mapasasalamatan?" And the psalmist, we heard, ito yung tanong niya, how can I thank the Lord for His mercy on our ancestors? And then he answers the question. He says, I will offer the cup of salvation. I will offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving, and I will call on the name of the Lord. You know, Jesus is lamenting na yung ritual na ito eventually became so meaningless because they reduced it to a ritual sacrifice. And they had totally forgotten the meaning of what they were celebrating, which was God's enduring mercy. They were focused on the sacrifice and they forgot mercy. In fact, we're told in the Gospels that Jesus almost became violent one time when He saw all the buying and the selling of sacrificial animals that was going on in the outer courtyard of the temple na kinumersyo ng mga pare. Like the prophet Jeremiah, Jesus lamented how the temple had been turned from a house of prayer into a den of thieves. Kaya nga, you see how or why remembering is so important in our lives. You would remember, meron akong isang homiling binigay where I quoted that song, Remember Me. How the boy Miguel had to sing the song to refresh the memory of his grandmother, Coco, about her father. She had to remember him. Otherwise, his soul would disintegrate in the afterlife. Maybe the real opposite of remembering should be dismembering, which is the real effect of forgetfulness. May kasabihan, those who do not remember the past are doomed to repeat it. Parang gusto kong baguhin. And I'd prefer to say, those who do not remember the past are not only doomed to repeat it, they are doomed, period. They say one of the most terrible diseases that can afflict people you love is Alzheimer's. Imagine how tragic it must be for your mother or your father, for your wife or your husband to gradually lose memory until you become a stranger to them. Well, Today's gospel is a warning from Jesus na yung Alzheimer, it can affect not only individuals, it can also affect us collectively. It can also afflict us as a nation. Baka tayo maging isang bansang may Alzheimer disease. And people can be afflicted with forgetfulness. Just as Jesus in his time, or just as the people in the time of Jesus, were also afflicted with forgetfulness. That is why they crucified him, because he was reminding them to eat not the wrapper, but the content. Ganyan din sa pananampalataya. Please lang, hindi yung balat ang kinakain, kundi yung laman.